The King George County School Board regular meeting, May 11th, 2020. May we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, which is going to be done by Alex Dunn.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You be seated. We have the recognition. Where is everybody? We want to do roll call real quick. Dr. Benson, are you on?
I'm here. I'm sorry, Madam Chair. It was tough to hear there for just a second. Did you?
So we are.
I'm going to roll call real quick. I just wanted to make sure it's Kristen Power online.
Okay. Are you ready for recognition? Is that?
I just want to do a real quick roll call.
Pause it first. It's okay. Kristen, can you hear us?
Okay.
TC Collins, are you on?
Present.
Kristen, I think you're on. Can she maybe type something in? She says right there she's on the web.
Madam Chair, do you want me to call her and see if I can make contact?
It does say that she's on. I just wanted to verify that she's there. There you are. Hey, welcome aboard. Okay, we can hear you now. Thank you.
Can you not hear me?
We can now.
All right, thank you.
All right, so can we go ahead and move on? So yes, Dr. Benson, we are at recognition.
Okay. Are you ready for recognition?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry for the quirkiness there connecting, but Madam Chair, members of the board, and certainly our public, we are proud of all of our employees, but I thought it prudent to take an opportunity. We just concluded Teacher Appreciation Week last week. We have many different employee groups who are annually recognized around this time of year. And I'd like to list off the different groups of employees with your indulgence, just to take this opportunity to say thank you to them for all they have done and continue to do. In April 16th was National Librarian Day, or Media Center, as we know it nowadays. We also had April 20th through 24th was Public School Volunteer Week. May 1st was School Principals Day. April 22nd was Administrative Professionals Day. As I mentioned, last week was Teacher Appreciation Week. May 4th through the 8th is our Child Nutrition Employee Week. And May 6th is our School Nurse Day, or was our School Nurse Day. And so for all those groups, and of course for all of our employees in general, we wanted to publicly recognize them, thank them for their service, know that they are appreciated, and when we get back into more normal times, we'll have the opportunity to do so or recognize them within the day, within the school day. Right now, we must convey our appreciation virtually, and that we'll have to do for the day. But we do appreciate all of our employees, but wanted to make special mention for those employees who were identified in those designated weeks. So I thank you again for the opportunity to do that, and thanks again.
Thank you, Dr. Benson. Okay, next we will move on to public employee and comment. Mr. Dunn. So I just want to please note that you have a 3-minute time interval, maybe exercise at the discretion of the school board chairperson. So you have 3 minutes.
Thank you for taking the time to hear me. My name is Alex Dunn, and I am 13 from King George Middle School. I would like to know why National Bring Your Kid to Work Day went from excused absence to an unexcused absence from school or King George Middle School. Last year, my parents told me that Virginia was no longer recognized by Bring Your Kid to Work Day as an excused absence as it had been in the years before. This is unfortunate because I have had very meaningful and educational days at work with my father for the past couple of years. My father works on a military base in Dahlgren, and many of the commands, they are actually participating in National Bring Your Kid to Work Day. They set up an educational program throughout the base that explores STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics subjects. So in case of those in my community, it is not only bring your child to your parent's job, but you can also experience what other parents do as well. If the Virginia school system has truly abandoned Bring Your Kid to Work today, it is an opportunity lost for thousands of students across the state. Even if a child has half the experience that I do, it would still be worth it. Could someone please get in touch with me on why this change was made, and if Bring Your Child to Work Day can make into an excused absence once again?
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Madam Chair, may I respond?
Yes, I was going to say, did you want to make?
To let you know that we certainly will look into it. I don't know. I remember seeing that change had occurred, and I don't know whether it was a statewide. I don't recall that we had any particular vote on it, but I think it's truly a worthwhile opportunity for all types of employment. And in this day and age, especially now, we're learning that many types of employment are under-recognized. So maybe when it comes around next year, we'll be having children go to work with all types of people that weren't recognized in the past and having those experiences. So thank you for bringing it forward. We really appreciate your taking the time.
Yeah, it's a really good opportunity, and I think that we'll look into it a little bit more. Have Dr. Benson do some research for us, and we'll get back in touch with you.
Sure. Thanks, Alex, for coming and speaking. I know it takes public speaking is not always easy for everyone, so I commend you. And I also work on base, and I know we've had my group in years past has put on like lots of effort into making really enjoyable days for you guys. So yes, we'll definitely get back to you.
Okay, can we move on to changes to the agenda? Dr. Benson?
Yeah, sorry, I had to unmute there. Yes, Madam Chair, I have two proposed changes to tonight's agenda. First, we would like to include on the agenda for discussion an agenda item from our technology department regarding copiers for the next lease cycle. And then the other proposed amendment is to the closed session motion. I received some information today that I would like to forward to the board in closed session regarding ongoing litigation. So I believe you have a copy that was forwarded to you of both of the copier agenda item for your consideration and also the revised motion. Did you receive the revised motion? I was having some trouble.
Yes, we received the revised motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, copiers have been added to the discussion item. Next, we have the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion approved to approve the consent agenda. What? Oh,
We get the two of them.
sorry.
Did you hear from TC and Kristen?
Yeah. Well, TC, yes.
Yes. How about Kristen?
Yes. I heard you, Kristen, correct? Can we have another I? I heard her.
Yes.
Yes, okay. 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 All right, so let's move on to the discussion item. We have the FY21.
having some issues with my microphone, sorry.
That's okay. We have the FY21 budget.
Be on the same side of any prison. Now, you and that thing need to meet me in 30 minutes.
Might want to mute their mic, not part of the.
Please.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so if I heard you correctly, Madam Chair, this is the FY21 budget item?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted an opportunity to, as we know, the budget development and approval is a process. The other night, the Board of Supervisors did meet, and they have agreed to advertise local funding for the schools in an amount equal to $300,000 less than this current year. So I do have that amount. That amount would equate to 17, sorry. $17,545,574. Again, they agreed to utilize that amount for publication in order to hold a public hearing. And I believe that that public hearing is coming up soon. I've got a couple of dates in my head, so forgive me, but I think once they have their public hearing, then they will wait. I believe they are scheduled to consider approval of a county budget on the 21st of May. So should they remain with the proposed amount after hearing any citizen comment, then of course we would need to come back, or I would need your guidance as a school board, and I would recommend to you proposed adjustments to then finalize a balanced budget, which will be related to the final amount approved by the Board of Supervisors. So that's where we are in the process. We are currently running contingency scenarios. I am with staff. I was with Ms. Williams today doing some budget work. And so we will just allow the process to move forward would be my advice. Allow the Board of Supervisors to receive any public comment at their hearing and then to make their determination, and then we will adjust accordingly. But I'm happy to answer any questions or field any guidance you want to give at this point regarding the budget process.
Is there any discussion, Ms. Hawk?
I have a question. Dr. Benson, do we yet know any details of the CARES, of the process for the CARES amount? In several comments I've heard from Dr. Bush, Mr. Bush, he indicated that he thought it would be that they would simply deposit the $300,000 into our budget. Is that our understanding, or do we know yet?
Forgive me, Ms. Hawk, it's kind of choppy as far as the audio that I'm hearing, but I think your question was the procedure for receiving funding through the CARES Act. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know, as far as the actual logistics in terms of the transfer of funds, I would need to check on that. I do know that it's federal funding, of course. We have received some guidance in terms of different categories that would qualify for expenditures using these funds. I don't know if it's a straight, they grant the money and it's deposited, or if after we expend the funds, we submit for reimbursement like we do with most federal grants. I can certainly check on those logistics for you, but I think I do agree that that was some of the consideration, was that with the pending stimulus money coming, the logic was then to that there was latitude to then reduce what they had discussed at our first budget meeting by an amount similar to that we expect to receive through stimulus funding. Did I answer your question fully, or is there another part that I can help expand on?
Thank you. I think what you're clarifying is that we don't know the process of how we will receive it or when we will receive it. And it's not a foregone conclusion that it's simply a one-for-one kind of thing. Is that correct?
The last part, you're correct in that if we do know, I have not looked at the logistics as much as I've looked at what the possible uses could be. So if that information is out there already, then I apologize, but I'll look and get an answer for you as far as the logistics. I'm not sure I understood. You said the one-for-one. When you say that, help me understand that.
All I meant is that it appeared from some of the discussion that the CARES money would simply go into our budget and would replace the amount that the Board of Supervisors deleted. And that's not necessarily the process, is my understanding.
I think that's fair to say, because certainly I don't think the intention of the money is to supplant other obligations. I do think there is wide latitude with the use of the money. So the money could be used, and keep in mind, it is not a recurring source of revenue. So the funding will certainly help address any holes that we have with regard to one-time expenses or expenditures. But in the sense that it could be used to fill a gap, let's say for personnel costs, I would advise against that, since the source of revenue is not going to be a sustainable one. It's a one-time shot as far as the nature of the stimulus funding itself.
That clarified for me.
Ms. Gonzalez, did you have anything? TC? Mr. Collins, did you have any comments, questions about the budget?
I don't have any questions because we don't actually have the amount approved yet. Until we do that, then I don't have anything until then.
Sure. Ms. Tolliver? Did you have anything to discuss about the budget?
No questions at this time. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on.
No questions at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to copiers.
To the board, we do, and I know that we tried to navigate our summer board meetings as carefully as we can, and given the times, I know that Mr. Hopper is working or has worked up a proposal. It has come to that time when our lease with one half of our copiers, division-wide, is expiring, and he has done his due diligence in making a recommendation or compiling a recommendation to move forward with a lease of copiers that are compatible or similar to the Canon copiers that we purchased, or not purchased, but leased, initiated a lease, I guess, 2 years ago. So you have just the information. We appreciate your consideration and our being allowed to submit this on this agenda for your consideration. I know that Mr. Hopper was trying to see if this could be considered tonight, which is still the case. But if you need additional time, undoubtedly, we will be meeting again to finalize a budget. So there will be another opportunity prior to to mid to late June, which is our next regularly scheduled meeting, for you to consider. But at any rate, he has compiled the background information, the proposal. I understand certainly if you want to take time to consider that. I did ask that he be on the call or on the meeting tonight in case you had any immediate questions, but he can also be on a subsequent meeting if you want to take time to digest and understand the lease proposal. So here, if you have questions, we'll be happy to answer them tonight. or if you'd rather take time to read through the information and then ask us questions next time, we can do that.
Harper, hope you're doing well.
Everyone, doing great.
So I have a question. I've kind of reviewed this, but I'm not real sure. Is this more of a monetary movement that we want to try to do, or is it more of just trying to get all of the copiers under one service provider?
We have had Ricoh for a number of years, actually about 8 years. This is our second round with them, and the reliability of the machines is very poor. They're down more than they're available in the schools. It's a constant thing that teachers get frustrated with. We actually have met with the maintenance leadership on many occasions with Dr. Benson, myself, and some of the principals to try and get this to be an improvement, and we just have not seen an improvement to the level that they need to function so that our teachers can rely on having a copier ready when they need to make copiers, because their time schedule is so limited during the day. You know, there's certain times of the day that they can only get to a copier because of, you know, their type of schedule, especially in the elementary level. But it's just been a real frustration for our staff. The last lease that we did switch to Canon. Canon has been very reliable as far as the machines themselves. We've had to have very few repair calls compared to the Ricohs. And when I posed the question to the administrative team and asked them, would you prefer if we stayed with Ricoh or if we went with Canon? It was an overwhelming, please go to Canon. So that's one of the main reasons why we are switching with that. You'll notice that there is one Ricoh copier. That is a color copier. Canon does not have an option for unlimited color copies. We would have to pay per copy on their plan, where Ricoh does have an unlimited color plan. So what we've done is there are 15 copiers that need to be replaced. We're leasing 14 Canons, and the one at the school board office that is a Ricoh machine will be replaced with another Ricoh machine, but that one will be a color machine, so that we have the capability of printing higher volumes of color prints.
Mr. Hopper, does this include the middle school, the new middle school edition as well?
It's the same number of copiers. The copiers are spread throughout various different schools. I believe the middle school gets a couple of new ones. They already got a couple of Canons already. Potomac, all of the copiers at Potomac get replaced. I think it's 2 or 3 at Sealston, and then several more at the high school. I don't have those numbers in my head as far as exactly where they're going. They're replacing whatever Ricoh copiers still remain in the buildings.
We surely had to add some additional copiers to the middle school location, is that correct? Not covered in this contract, but already purchased?
We're trying to stay within the budget, so we have not added any additional copiers, no ma'am.
If I can interject, we will have, in 2 years though, we will have another opportunity, because at that time we'll be looking at renewal of the other half, so to speak, of the fleet. So we will have a window of opportunity to address any growing middle school needs at that time.
Good, thank you, Dr. Benson.
You're welcome.
Mr. Hopper, I have a question.
I have a comment. Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay, go ahead, Kristen.
Who, me or?
Go ahead, Ms. Fowler.
Well, just a thought, generally speaking, from my limited experience, most grade levels have their own copiers for teachers to use. So I would guess that if the 6th grade is moving, some of those copiers might come with them. Just a thought.
Yes, that's a possibility. We can move them anywhere we want. That is true.
Okay, yes, thank you. It's interesting. Folks not here. So, Mr. Hopper, I have a question. A couple pages into the packet that we have here, there are 2 options presented. So it says, I guess, financial considerations, option 1 and option 2. They're 2 different 48-month costs that are a little bit different for a Ricoh copier or Ricoh copiers. Are those for the color copier? I guess, what's the difference between the 2 options?
Yes. There are 2 options given from Ricoh for 2 different copiers that are both color. One, the more expensive one, obviously, is what they call a production copy machine. And that would be what you would probably see in a print shop type copier. And the lower cost one is comparable to the current copier that we have at the school board office and at many other schools. That is a high volume machine. But they just wanted to give us those 2 options in case, we really wanted to pump out a lot of color. We probably would want to go with the more expensive. So in my discussions with them and us not having really any data on how much we would, do as far as color prints on a monthly basis, we thought maybe we'd just start off with the less expensive one to try and stay within budget also.
Okay, thank you.
So Mr. Hopper, you've mentioned you want to stay within budget. What is the budget that you're trying to stay within?
Total budget. That is the total budget that is being presented in the 2021 budget that you all will be voting on in a couple of weeks, I'm guessing. The total budget for copiers is $155,000.
And so is there a way that we can see what the breakdown is between the Ricoh and the Canon? And then the addition of the leases moving forward?
So are you asking what we pay now for the Canons, for the Ricohs?
I mean, did we get anything from Ricoh, invoice or a proposal from Ricoh to extend the lease? Or did we? We
were trying not to extend the lease with Ricoh because of the reliability problem. That's the main issue.
I think I would feel a little bit more comfortable knowing, okay, if we're paying more for them, I just want to make sure we're not like tripling it or quadrupling it and it's not really paying off. And, we're going to have to start looking at the budget a little closer. We're gotten money taken away from us. We're not going to be able to get everything. So we're looking for every area that we can look into. I just wanted to verify that we're not overexpending on the Canon. And if there's any other, have we talked to them or have we done anything else in order to reach out to them to try to rectify this issue that we have with them?
Mr. Hopper, I don't mean to put you on the spot. Is the proposed contract with Canon, has it been negotiated elsewhere, or is it part of any GSA or any other purchasing or state purchasing contracts?
Yes, it's on a GSA contract, yes. Actually, it's a communities contract.
Okay, so oftentimes, Madam Chair, if this helps with the wanting to be assured that we are getting the best for our taxpayers' buck, we do utilize existing contracts that have been pre-negotiated or pre-bidded, if that's the concern. I just to restate, our history, and we certainly have data in terms of service calls we could fall back on to help found our want to make the switch in terms of the actual product. But in both cases, there is data that could help address, I think, your concern, or you're just wanting to make sure that we're getting good value for the money that we will expend for these machines.
Correct.
Does that help?
Pretty much. I mean,
Okay. I'm sorry, I wasn't able to hear all of the audio, so. That's okay.
I don't know. I mean, other board members, am I asking too much to see how much the RICOs would be to extend the lease? And so we can see a comparison to the Cannons? I mean, I understand that there's an issue with the service of the RICOs, but I mean, RICO's been around a long time, and if we have issues with them, I think we should be able to work something out, or if it's a substantial amount of cost difference.
As it seems to me,
Don't misunderstand. We can get you any information you like. I just was trying to fill in the entire procurement process that we've been through so far, to see if that helped address some of the concern. But certainly, if you'd like some information, and again, I apologize, Madam Chair, because as Mr. Hopper stated, on our end, some of the audio is, we get about every other word. But we're happy to compile any current information or any information you'd like to help with your consideration.
So I'm not sure how to read that. That's why I'm asking. I mean, we got some information, but it's a little choppy. I just, if we could say, this is what the Cannon's going to cost us, and this is what the RICO is going to cost us, and we want to go with the Cannon because of, I mean, I get it, quality, and, if the Cannons are working better, we definitely want to do that because there's so much time wasting, and it's very frustrating when you're trying to make copies at the last minute for the teachers, and then it doesn't work. So I'm not trying to say, let's go with a cheaper one and not work it, not worry about that. But I would like to see what the cost difference is.
Yeah, I don't know if we solicited directly from them, but we could certainly look at any other existing, GSA agreements or any other community agreements that we would, had we had recommended the other machines, would have been in play. That way, that would certainly be an apples to apples if that helps, perhaps.
I might be able to
I think so.
answer a question I think she's asking. The bids that came back, Cannon's bid was $77,988, and RICO's bid was $80,700. So Cannon was the cheaper option also.
Yeah, that,
Which answers the question. I mean, you guys, it sounded like they wanted to go with Canon for quality, not necessarily cost. So that's just the information that I'm looking for. If we could make that available, that would be great. Okay, so if we could put that on the consent.
Madam Chairman, was there a need for us to proceed on this tonight beyond discussion? Do we need to vote tonight?
Was there a need? Forgive me, Ms. Hawk. I think you were asking me, is there a need beyond?
Do we need tonight?
It would be helpful just from a logistics and trying to get on their schedule for installation so that we can ensure the machines are installed prior to what we hope to be the beginning of the school year. As I started with, it's not imperative, though. We know that the board appreciates an opportunity to hear from any constituents. You certainly have the opportunity to hear any more discussion on the budget for next year. I do think in my initial ask for your consideration, we were thinking that the next opportunity you would have to take action would not occur until June at best. But we do understand that you'll undoubtedly be reconvening for the budget. We could certainly put it on that same agenda for action at that time.
I'd like,
No.
yeah, I
feel that way too. Okay, all right, great. Let's do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hopper.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Hopper. You too.
Stay well.
Okay, moving on, we have information items. Do we have any committee reports?
No, ma'am.
Nope. Mr. Collins, Ms. Kristen, yes, okay. All right, so moving on to the superintendent's report.
In expressing my appreciation, I think I've encumbered your time, but thank you, Madam Chair. No report.
right, we'll move on to the board comment. Ms. Hawk, did you have a board comment?
No, I really don't have any. Thank Dr. Benson, and I really do want to say thank you to all the staff that's been working so diligently. We really appreciate your extra added time and effort.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yeah, sure. I have some comments. So I participated in the VSBA webinar. When was it, last Thursday, I guess. So it was the role of the school board in school finance. So it was supposed to be an in-person session, but it was changed to a webinar, obviously. It was a good session. It did reiterate a couple of points that I know I have mentioned in the past. So one was a suggestion, maybe as a kind of a best practice, on having a public budget hearing in the fall, in addition to having one during your budget season, so that you can get input from the community and other stakeholders prior to developing a budget, instead of only doing it during budget season, which I know I mentioned. I proposed that as an agenda item earlier this year, but didn't get any traction. So I'll continue to suggest that. The presenter also mentioned the practice by some boards around the Commonwealth who have regular work sessions in addition to regular meetings, in addition to formal meetings. I understand the board's done that in the past. I think it sounds like a good idea, and I think it's worth having a discussion about that in the future. And then I guess to reiterate some of my comments from previous meetings at the risk of sounding like a broken record, I know we talked about bringing back a to-do list, and I know there are things going on now and our meetings maybe aren't quite the way they used to be, but I don't think that's the reason we can't continue with forward progress in other areas. I think bringing back the to-do list is a good idea. That would also lend itself well to having regular work sessions. I also was wondering about the Potomac trailers. I think I recall previously, Dr. Benson, you mentioned that was going to be included as a SIP proposal. And I didn't know, I don't remember how that works with the budget situation, but I was wondering what the status was of that. And then I had mentioned the suggesting we develop and issue climate surveys to the families and teachers and staff. I think I asked, or there was an open action for Dr. Benson to provide a list of surveys that are currently issued. I did see a few surveys in the grant proposal portion of today's packet, which did we talk about yet? I saw a school climate survey, which said I was wondering, if that's a Virginia Department of Education survey? It looked like it was. There was a division annual budget survey and a division annual comprehensive plan survey. So I was wondering if there were others in addition to that. So that concludes my comment.
Mr. Collins?
Good evening. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. I've had an opportunity to observe some of the operations during this time of the school closure, with the education still continuing. There are going to be some new challenges as we move forward, and not just budget-wise, but also to make sure that our students are prepared for the next step in their educational process. There's a lot of talk about the CARES Act and what it means to King George. I would caution everyone that is not guaranteed money. That is not necessarily money that's going to be, as Ms. Hawk says, one-to-one, and put it right into the budget of the school board. And those funds can only be used for certain, they're all titled expenditures that would have to be used for. The number that came up of 330,000, I would say that would be on the high side of what would be available if it becomes available. Ms. Gonzalez mentioned the to-do list. I think that was already said there's going to be a go last time or the time before. I have had considerable conversations about our budget with some members of the Board of Supervisors, specifically my representative, and I requested fully funding of the of what they funded us last year. And as you all know, that didn't happen. So it's going to be a challenging year. We need to take an opportunity not to, we need to have an opportunity, take an opportunity not to let off on the gas with our King George County schools. It's the priority of our citizens, just like our sheriff's office and fire and rescue.